Good morning or good afternoon to everyone today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm thrilled to have my friend Rick here from Grey Wolf Systems. Always excited to hear his presentations and really just catch up with him, and looking forward to seeing him at Connect in August as always. But today's presentation is Life After TPCx EDI come 2026. As y'all know, I like to take a couple of minutes to cover some housekeeping items, and just the one that means the most to me, and probably the one I like to spend the most time on, is just acknowledging our user group officers, and that's Sam, Tim, Ted, Mike, and Jimmy. They do so much behind the scenes. I appreciate everything they do. It's really an honor to work alongside them. Anyone who's been following the user group forum the past few days, you'll notice we just posted our session grid for Connect this year. We're very proud of the offering, and all the initiatives that we do within the group is driven by this team. So huge thank you to them. They can all be reached at officers@P21WWUG if you ever want to reach out to them directly. Next, of course, is Save the Date, Connect 2025, August this year. It's coming up fast. At the top right-hand corner of the user group forum, you'll find that logo. That logo takes you over to our dedicated web page for all things Connect. You can book your hotel room now if you'd like. If you go to the agenda tab, you can see all the session descriptions, and we recently just added some. So you do want to go back and check that out if you haven't recently. We just posted our schedule of sessions as well. Again, super proud of the offerings we have for this year. Make sure to go check that out. Registration is due to open, I'm hoping, in about 2 weeks, if not sooner. So do keep an eye on your email for that. The number one question I get at the end of all of these presentations is, where the heck do I find the recordings? So if you go onto the user group forum and scroll down, about a third of the way down, you're going to find the online learning area. Go ahead and click on upcoming sessions and go to the far right there in the blue bar and click on forum subscription. And that allows you to subscribe to those emails, and you'll get the emails when we post recordings. But when we post, when we post webinar announcements as well. Rick and I were just joking about how all these are recorded, and how if you make a mistake, it stays there forever, and I just keep making mistakes today. Anyway, the last slide, of course, is our disclaimer slide. I'm not super worried about SQL statements today, but I do like to take a moment to cover this slide because it doesn't just pertain to webinars, but also forum posts as well. So this is just your reminder that all of the content you receive within the scope of the Profit 21 Worldwide Users Group is being shared in a volunteer capacity, and you should take any and all information in the spirit in which it's being offered. Always use your play database and test anything you learned before going live. And of course, if you run into any problems, make sure you're reaching out to the SQL professionals within your organizations, Epicor, the presenters of the session, or others on the user group forum. Last, of course, is my contact information. I'm here as your resource. So if you have any questions regarding your membership, regarding Profit 21, regarding Insights coming up in about 6 weeks, regarding Connect coming up in August, I'm here for you. I try to get back to everyone within about 24 hours, so never feel stuck, always reach out. So I'm going to take a moment and pass screen control over to Rick, and while he gets his screen ready, just a couple of reminders today. Sorry, Rick, I'm just trying to unmute you there. A couple of reminders about asking questions. Please put your questions in the question feature here in GoToWebinar. That helps me keep all the questions together, and then we know how much time to leave at the end of the presentation. I'm having trouble unmuting you, Rick. Just try, there we go.
Oh, okay. It was me. Somehow or other, it forced me to have to unmute as well. So
okay, so with all that, I'm going to put myself on mute because I can't talk straight today.
Oh, Cheryl, I am going to have so much fun with this because I love that we were talking about this beforehand.
I know, we literally just talked about it. Rick, I am giving the floor to you.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, actually, we were just talking about these webinars are so much fun, and the intimidating part is the fact that you can mess up, but it goes on into perpetual motion where you just keep having it out there for a recording. So thanks, Cheryl, for making me feel so much better at this point. My name is Rick Sundahl. I'm with Grey Wolf Systems, and this is going to be a little bit unique of a presentation compared to what we've done in the past. This one has a specific topic to it. Now, I'm going to probably switch it around a little bit in the sense of taking that topic, adding some things onto it, move a few things around. But the idea is to talk about TPCx and talk about what's going to happen. So I'm making an assumption that the majority of you are in the TPCx world, but this can be on the recording. For those of you that are watching the recording, I'm assuming that you're not on TPCx. So we're going to try to cover a few things. And in fact, here's the agenda that we're going to be going over. I want to do an introduction of Gray Wolf and myself so that those of you that haven't heard me before will at least get a basic overview of who we are and what we do. I then want to review the email that came out from Epicor on TPCx and go over that just real quickly. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of a technological overview. Again, I'm making a basic assumption that everybody knows how to spell EDI. They understand the basics of it. But while that being said, I am going to go over a little bit of what is EDI, a little bit of some of the technology, what are some of the pieces and parts. The majority of my time I'm going to be spending is going through a live demo and showing you live of some of the things that how EDI works and how this would work relative to TPCx so that you can compare that as well. We are going to do some pricing, and we're going to talk about the migration. If you are on TPCx, how do you migrate to other things? And what are some of the things that you need to be looking at? That's probably something that all of you are going to want to hear from a perspective of how do you move on? Where do you move on to the next step? And then obviously we'll do some wrap up and questions. Now that being said, Cheryl and I know that if you guys have questions, and I like to make this more of a dialogue than it is a presentation. If you have questions and you really want to know something at the time, she'll be interrupting me at any time that we need to during the presentation if necessary. So feel free to ask questions during the whole piece. A little bit of an intro. So first of all, Gray Wolf Systems, and everything I'm telling you about Gray Wolf and most of the pricing is really on our website. If you go to our website and take a look there, what you'll see is you'll start to see all of the things that we do from a general perspective as well as a specific perspective. We actually have all of our pricing for all of the products we do. Our biggest attribute, I would say, is that we've been in business for over 30 years. We started in 1992. We have been involved in the distribution arena for a very long time. And with that being said, because we've been in the distribution arena for so long, you'll have noticed that we have actually been in P21 for, if you go to the About Us, you'll see that we've been with the P21 world. I met Cheryl a long time ago in 2015, and I'm sure you'd be surprised that it's been over 10 years since we've known each other. But not only that, but we get into some of the other ones so that we focus on the distribution arena. And that helps us when we're talking about things like EDI, because we do understand Profit 21. We do understand all the things that you're working with. I actually started the company. I've been in the industry for a long time, but not only that, my dad was an auto parts distributor. So I am very familiar with the whole concept. In fact, I'm going to date myself. We actually had a Cardex system where you open up drawers and you showed the inventory and checked off things as you sold it and as you brought it into stock. So I've been around this for way, way, way too long. That being said of who we are, and oh, by the way, I have been known to talk way, way too fast. So Cheryl and I'm going to probably have a bet with her whether I get done before the hour is up. I usually get done with way too early. So I'm going to try to slow this down a little bit. And I'm going to take a little bit of time here to talk about TPCx. The funny part about it is TPCx was originally named Trading Partner Connect. And Gray Wolf actually trademarked with the United States Patent and Trademark Office Partner Connect. And that was actually, the attorneys got involved and sent something to Epicor and say, you can't use Trading Partner Connect because that's an infringement on the trademark name. So TPCx was a switch off from Trading Partner Connect. You probably got this email, and this has all the information into it. This was sent out, and if you look in the top part up here, you'll see it was sent in June of last year. And it talks about that the end of life is going to be December 31st. And obviously Epicor is going to say, here's what your plan, here's your next steps, that you can talk to Epicor about it. but you've got other alternatives available to you. So it's not just one option to move from TPCx. You now have the opportunity to open up with all opportunities that are out there for EDI. And that's something that we're going to be talking about today, is what do those opportunities mean? So before we go any further, I'd like to spend a little time talking about who you are. So Cheryl, if you do the poll for me, please. This will give me a better feel for who's at least on the call. I know we've got people that are on the recording, but for those of you that are on the call, and I know that some of you are not going to see this if you're on the recording. It sometimes doesn't show that up. So the question is, what is your current EDI status? One is you're utilizing TPCx. One is you're using a other third-party provider, or are you doing it yourself, or you're not doing it at all. So those are the four options you've got. While you're filling this out, and Cheryl, if you'll just go ahead and when we get to about 80% or whatever, if you'll go ahead and show the results for me.
Yeah, you were just at 80% right there, actually. When you
perfect.
Yeah,
well, this is good. Yeah, good. I can see it. So the lion's share of you are running TPCx. That's actually was the intent of this webinar. So I'm glad that's who's on this call, so that we can actually go through from that perspective. Now, I know some of you are not doing it at all. Some are using another third-party provider, but I'm going to talk to the audience a little bit more on the TPCx aspect, but those that are on the recording, hopefully I'll give you some things that you can work with. Thanks, Cheryl. All right, so I'm not going to get into the philosophical, what is EDI, what are all the pieces and parts. Most of you are on TPCx, so you know what EDI is, at least you can spell it. But EDI, electronic data interchange, is really electronic transactions. Well, our definition, and this is coming straight from the website, is a computer-to-computer exchange of business documents. That's in a standard, and that's the key. I should probably put that in quotations. Standard is no such thing in the EDI world. But the key to it is it's going to be in electronic format and between business partners. So that's going to be, originally, it was meant for distributors talking to manufacturers. It was for distributors talking to customers. And it was really kind of a customer-vendor kind of relationship. The world has broadened a little bit, especially with the advent of marketplaces. So when we talk about the concept of EDI, it's not just to vendors, it's not just to customers, but it could be going to marketplaces. It could be going things like marketplaces like Coupa, or some of the other pieces that are out there like Coupa. But what we call EDI is more of a lights out approach, where it's system to system communication. You only go into P21 and or you look in P21 and it just shows up automatically. It's not rekeying things. It's not a portal. It's not those kinds of pieces that we're talking about. It's truly a lights out aspect. And we're going to get into some of the supportability here in just a second. But because we've been doing this for so long, we've been doing EDI really since 1997, if you get specific. We've been in business since 92. The first few years we were doing things with Microsoft and Lotus Notes and networking and those kinds of things. 1997 was the first version of Partner Connect. And when we were doing that, it really was specifically more on the transactional aspects. It was, and we're going to go into a little bit broader aspect of it as we talk about it, but this is really the transactional information exchange. And those of you on the call, most of you probably know the first four. We call them the big four, or realistically, if you call them the big eight, because that's the in and out aspects of it. So the number, for those of you that don't know ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, ANSI 850, ANSI X12 850, the 855, the 856, the 810 are the big four. They're the ones that we do probably 80%, maybe even 90% of the transactions that we deal with. That's the ones that we deal with. And I'm going to start using the words for them as well. So an 850 is a purchase order, an 855 is an acknowledgement, an 856 is an ASN, and an 810 is an invoice. But there are some other transactional documents that some of you may be doing out there. Some of you may be doing the 820, and I'm really surprised. I've been, like I said, been doing this for so long. I'm really surprised we don't do more of the 820s, where we start letting people know about the payments, both from an in and out perspective. And or the real small one is the purchase order change request, the 860. We do some of those as well. But if you think about it, these are all transactional types of documents. They're the things that's related to a transaction. And I almost put the definition of a transaction up as a slide, but realistically, it's not, it's the things that are fluid. It's the things that happen. It's a shot in time for a specific transaction that goes between you and a trading partner. We're separating that out, and I put concrete on here on purpose relative to static information. And what we're seeing is more and more people are doing static informational updates, and that's still EDI because it's going from system to system automatically to pass that information. Now, you may know those in the ANSI world as an 832 and 852. Those are an 846 as well. Those are the big ones that are really kind of static information. And we've been doing some of those over the years, but we're starting to see that grow more and more as time has gone on, primarily because of the marketplaces. If you look at the Amazons, the Home Depots, the Wayfairs, the Grangers, the guys that you can sell things through, there's going to become more and more getting product information to those guys. Now, you'll still be getting an 850 in from, say, from a Home Depot, where someone places an order on Home Depot or they place an order on Amazon, and those purchase orders actually come in from Home Depot or Amazon and come directly into your P21 environment. But getting the 832, the 852, and the 846 has been a really kind of a hard challenge for the world that works in the ANSI X12 world. And we're going to talk about a different paradigm on that a little bit. So bear with me a little bit as we get into that. But I wanted to talk about the idea that we've got two basic types of information that's for electronic data interchange. We've got the transactional side, and then we've got the static side. So we're going to talk probably mostly about the transactional side because most of you on TPCx have most of that, but we will be talking about the static side just a little bit more. Now, in the TPCx world, they cover a lot of these things. So this should be fairly straightforward for you and familiar to you. The ANSI X12 world, the comma delimited world, the Excel, the XML. Those have been out for quite a while, and most everybody does that kind of a document format. What's kind of new is a data PDF and APIs. Now, I'm going to go down and drill down in this just a little bit. PDF is not a scanned in image PDF. This is a data PDF. So if you have a customer, for example, that's running QuickBooks, they can actually create a purchase order in their system, and they can actually put it into a PDF format. If they put it into a PDF format, email it to us or to an email address that we have, what ends up happening is we will parse it out through our map. We'll map it out, bring it into Partner Connect, and then use our APIs to, or unless you're on P21 Cloud using the Epicor APIs, but then we would push it to P21, all done automatically so that you don't have to rekey those things that are coming from customers. So the data level PDFs are not just a scanned in image where you're doing OCR, because that gets to be a challenge. And no matter how good your OCR is, I hate the word AI, I think it's overhyped. Artificial intelligence cannot do a very good job of making a distinction between the lowercase letter L and the number 1. So OCR is always difficult no matter how good your transposition of that information is. So a data PDF, though, is extremely functional for us, and we've done that with several customers, several P21 customers. You're going to see even a sample of some of that as I go through the demo. APIs, for those of you that aren't technical, application programming interface, is a direct real-time connectivity both to P21 and or to things like Amazon. Amazon's got a set of APIs that we can read and write from the Amazon marketplace through those APIs. So that becomes effectively a document format. Instead of using the scheduled importer, which a lot of people are using for their EDI, we use a set of APIs to actually make that transfer back and forth to P21 through a term we call an adapter, which is just code that allows us to take the data from one format using an API and pushing or pulling into P21. And just so you know, The architecture of that is you don't need to have a separate server for that. Now, if you look at the middleware server from Epicor, you have to have a dedicated separate server for that. That's not the way we do it at Grey Wolf. We've been doing the APIs for a very long time, since almost 10 years now, ever since we started on this. And so using those APIs and using it with an EDI approach allows us to take out that whole level of complexity of a flat file that you've got to pass back and forth to the actual scheduled importer or to the middleware server that you got to have. So it makes it a very affordable and easy to use type of architecture. The connectivity options, those again, you guys that have been doing EDI, you should recognize most of these. A van, which is really starting to slow down and go away. Not completely. There's going to be a lot of manufacturers that stay on the vans, and we're going to see that for probably as long as I'm alive. But the others that are growing are the FTP and the SFTP. And for those of you that aren't technical, file transfer protocol, or the secure file transfer protocol. HTTP, which is just a protocol, which is hypertext transfer protocol, and the secure version of that. And then SMTP, or email, simple mail transfer protocol, are all the standard ways that we've used of passing this file back and forth. The newer way is now the APIs, like I was saying with Amazon. We've got customers that are using Partner Connect, and what we're doing is we're pulling transactions from Amazon directly into P21 using APIs on both ends. So there's no file transfer process. It's bringing the file from Amazon into our database, and then through a mapping process, we put it into our database and then map it back out accordingly for P21. So we've got a lot of functionality that's available to us with the whole architecture being different with APIs. And like I said, we've been doing APIs for almost 10 years now. That being said, I wanted to go back, bear with me here. The last slide I want to show you is we're going to go into Partner Connect. Partner Connect is our technology for the TPCx replacement, if you will. It's the competitor to EDI1 source from Epicor. It's the competitor to the other third parties that are out there. So it is our rendition of EDI. So how does that work? What does it look like? Well, I'm not going to get into the under the covers pieces because, again, remember, it's lights out, so you shouldn't really have much from a demo perspective. A demo doesn't really do well in EDI because, in theory, everything should go like clockwork, which never happens. We all know that. There's always the exceptions. So the key to a good EDI solution is to have the exception handling and all of the reporting and the notifications that are necessary to truly have this happen correctly. Now, I'm not going to get in, like I said, under the covers, but what we have is a tool called My Account. This is where we're going to live today from a perspective of looking at all the different pieces that we have available to us. Well, let's actually go and do a transaction. Now, I know this is an old version of P21. This just happens to be a version that we have available to us from one of our customers that we were able to run with this. So I'm going to go into purchase order entry. I'm going to simulate an 850 out. I'm going to go create a purchase order and show you how that actually plays out. Now, what you see is live. It's going to break, like Cheryl and I were just talking about. I guarantee you something in here is going to break. So bear with me on this if something does break. But I'm going to walk through and I'm going to create a new purchase order. And I've got to minimize something here. Bear with me so that I can bring up my notes. Come on, let's go this way. Okay, and then let's go back over here. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to specify purchasing. You guys should recognize all this. I'm just going to use 103, and I'm going to use vendor number 1020738. Now I could have done a lookup for this. I'm not going to go look for Cambridge. You guys, I'm not going to teach you P21. That doesn't serve any purpose. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start buying some items. So I'm going to buy 1319. And yes, I know it's not the supplier for this, that's okay. And I'm gonna order, we're just gonna put in 60 feet for this one. And the price on this one happens to be $8. And then I'm gonna go, let's go back, and I'm gonna order item number 1335. And yes, I know that as well. And I'm gonna order 70 feet of this. And I'm gonna put a price in just so we can see the difference. I'm gonna make it bigger. I'm gonna make it $66. Okay? Now, let's go through a couple things. EDI, by definition, should be lights out. I've not clicked on anything. I'm not doing anything in the background, nothing up my sleeve, no magic. I'm stopping on this screen right now. Now, some of the things that we struggle with, but because the customers have been taught this, and it's been grayed out, is this little thing called an EDI button. We don't agree with it, but we do support it. The idea is, why should a buyer control what goes through EDI and what doesn't? In theory, everything should be going through EDI based upon the given vendor. With Partner Connect, we're able to put all kinds of business rules. Be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. We can put business rules of which vendors, which type of documents. We can put all the rules in there of specifying what elements go through EDI. Now, I'm not going to send this through email because that's been kind of messed up a little bit on our server, but we're not going to send the email for that. What I am going to do, though, because this is similar to what another customer's done that I can show you can do it, we've added for a class, we've said, okay, we're going to make an EDI transmit. We don't have to do this. This is not a requirement of Partner Connect. It's just to show you this is how something can be set up, whether it's the EDI checkbox, whether it's this kind of a class, whether it's all kinds of other things, that you could set rules up of which documents end up going through EDI. I'm going to click on Save. It was update. I'm not going to do anything more in P21 at this point. I'm going to jump out of here, and I'm going to go over, and oh, by the way, we've got this set up. It's a scheduled process. It goes every 2 minutes is the way it works. I'm going to open up my Outlook. It's going on another window right now. I'm opening up my window. And I'm going to show you something here of where you can then control some of these things. So I'm going to go into this email addresses for reports. Now, I've got it set up for Cambridge. If you remember right, that was the vendor. And I've got it set up that for Cambridge email transmitted, it's going to send that email. This happens to be my personal one, Colorado native, and this is my business one. I can remove those if I want. I can add a new one if I want. So I can add test@test.com, and I can add that to the listing. I can remove that. These are all things that you can do from within the My Account environment. Now, I'm talking here a little bit on purpose because I'm watching my email to see when that email actually comes through saying that this has been processed. Keeping in mind, this goes on a regularly scheduled basis. I'm doing nothing in the background. It's system to system. So once I get this email, what that means is it will have processed that PO. It will have gone out and been sent to my trading partner. In this case, it's Cambridge. And I would have been sending that email directly to their system, either through a VAN or through an API or through an HTTP post or an FTP or whatever. That's all being done. So if you noticed, all I did as a user, and oh, by the way, that email just came in. I'm going to bring it up and show it to you. Here's the email. That was order number 116. If I were to go back into P21, you will have noticed this is the order number P216. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that back out. It has this, and it had the 2 line items that we had. Here's today's date with the warehouse associated with it. So I got an email telling me about this, and I can specify that could be a grouping of people. I can specify where these email addresses go to. In addition, now we have some other fun things. If those of you are familiar with Domino's Pizza, we have a very similar to a pizza tracker. We have a document tracker. So I'm going to go pull up, and then it in 6. This is the order that I just placed. You'll see here's the time that it was placed. The PO was sent, and the next thing we're waiting on is for it to be acknowledged, to be sent back into us, to have it actually be acknowledged. It's in a pending, if you look at the status down here, it's in a pending status right now, waiting for that to happen. So I can see where the document is as I'm going through this. Now let's say it was something that I really didn't handle correctly, and I want to be able to resubmit it. Again, exception handling. Let's say it's an inbound document, say it's a PON, and that customer sends you a document that's a non-stock or doesn't even exist in P21. We can go look based upon the different document types, and if you'll notice, this is more than just the big four. These are all the document types that are out there, like an ASN, which is an 856, the functional acknowledgement, which is a 997. We've got here's our product activities, which we've been doing that way, purchase order 8. We're going to go to purchase order, and we're going to look at a purchase order out and go look at what's out there. And you'll see here's the 2116. I can go into that order, and I can change it to select it to be reprocessed. And if you'll notice, it's showing me. Now, one of the things that's kind of unique, the order quantity got changed. Remember, I think I did 70 and 60, even though I did $8 and $66. What changed on that? That's based upon the unit of measure conversion that's going on based upon that purchase order being sent out for that vendor so that they order it in the appropriate types of unit quantity that you're looking for. So we're taking care of all those kinds of things. And again, if I keep going down further through this, I have a document skip functionality. I can specify for a given document, for a PO out, I can add that order number and say skip it. Why would I want to do that? Well, maybe that someone had sent it accidentally through a fax. I'm using a fax as an example, or they sent an email. Now I may want to skip it so that it doesn't actually go if I'm having this run, say, twice a day. Now I can catch that before it goes out. I can just do a standard raw document search. So for example, actually, let me come back to that one. I want to go and look at, I had that one ahead. Let's just go a simple document search. I want to go look at some basic information about the order instead of doing a submit or resubmit. Here's the basic information for that order. I can go view the lines. So I can see this information multiple different ways. Now, those of you that are very familiar with TPCx probably have the typical question that comes up. It says, hey, I'd like to see the raw data. Can I see what it looks like when it was sent? Well, this is not the order we had because this is a purchase order out that we did. But for inbounds, I want to see what the document looked like for a purchase order in. Well, here's some samples. First, those of you that are familiar with ANSI X12, we're going to show you exactly what the ANSI X12 file format looked at. Or remember that 850 that I was talking about, that purchase order in from the guy that was using QuickBooks and using a PDF file format? Well, here's an example of a document that was sent that we processed, and this is a PDF file format accordingly, so that we can actually look at what the PDF is, even though it's been processed. So we can compare if you think there's some sort of mistake, you don't trust the way the document is being processed, you can actually go look at that detail. In addition, I have the ability to have a document count and subscription count. When we get into pricing, this is going to be important on the subscription count, because what this tells you is which document, we're calling them trading partner connections. I happen to have, in this case, I've got an outbound purchase order and inbound functional acknowledgement. That's what my trading partner count is coming from. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into pricing. I also will be getting into a little bit more about the next steps, but I want to show you while I'm here, how do you work with Partner Connect? How do you get us going? Well, first of all, you have an onboarding form. This is saying I want to set up a trading partner. It's as simple as give us the trading partner, 3M, Home Depot, whatever, which document, which direction, and do I want to include functional acknowledgements? You submit it, we take it and run from there. There is a secondary question once you sign up for it that may be a little bit more information. So we have some business questions that are associated with it. Give us the date, today's date, estimated go live, who's the trading partner, what's the company ID, which customer ID do you want to use in P21, what ship to, some decisions down here. Do you have any custom processes? Do you have anything going on? So we walk you through some of the questions that are going to be important to actually get this document set up. So those are all of the things from a document setup perspective that you're going to go. And we'll talk a little bit more, some specifics if you don't go with Grey Wolf on that. We also have a cross-reference maintenance spreadsheet. And what that is, when you start getting into things like, and we could use the P21 cross-reference, that's not a problem, but not everybody wants to maintain it in P21. Things like vendor number, or things like what's the vendor number for the part versus what's the P21 part number, or what's the UPC comparison, or what's the ship to location comparison. We have all those cross-references all in a spreadsheet that then you can upload that spreadsheet into it, and we'll take that into account. Okay, that's the demonstration I wanted to go so far. Let's go, we talked about Partner Connect, but let's talk about the definition of EDI. Remember, we talked about the idea of its computer-to-computer exchange of business documents. It's not just transactions, it's static information. Well, we have a tool called Keystone. And Keystone it's a new product. We've been using Partner Connect for the static information, but we're finding that Keystone actually works better for the static information. So let's go do a quick demo of that. And I'm not going to spend as much time on this as I did on the other. So what does Keystone look like? Keystone looks like this. So I've got, let me close out and not do that. I've got the ability to go look, yes, I'm sure, to look at all the products after I logged in. I've got product information, I've got collection information, I've got categories and attributes, I can do import mapping. And when I go look at a given product, and I can look at the basic information of SKUs and names and UPC, I can have base description, extended description with all the attributes that are associated with it. We've got some things that we do with SEO. We've got digital assets, so I can look at images. Not only that, the images now, if you want, we store it as a true CDN for it. We have data sheets that we can have. All these things that you would use from an e-commerce perspective. Well, oh, by the way, we've got this P21 module that I can capture all kinds of things in P21, bring it in here, like what supplier information is associated with it, things like pricing information for a given warehouse, like the price one. If you want more of those, we can do that. Then what I can do is I have a whole bunch of integration, and every single one of these menu items can be scheduled, just like in Partner Connect, so we can truly make it lights out, that I bring these products in, I can update them from P21, again, using the APIs. There's no flat files, it's not a scheduled importer. And then once I've got it in here, I can push those products to, say, and export it, send it to Grainger, or I could send it to Home Depot, or I can send it to Amazon. You know, we've got an Amazon products push. So this now, even though it's called EDI, even though it's not using Partner Connect for things that would be normally transactional based, this is all the static information related to products. We're going to add a new customer aspect, which is not meant to be a CRM, but we're going to have customer information, ship to information. We'll add those kinds of things so that we can actually then start transmitting the static information to our trading partners accordingly. So as we've gone through this, as we've just started talking about, Keystone then meets some of those definitions of what we said of what is EDI, even though it's static information. Again, totally new paradigm. Those of you running the TPCx probably haven't even thought this through. TPCx transition is what we're really talking about. So this is really where we're focusing on the Partner Connect. So how are we pricing Partner Connect? Partner Connect it used to be. We've been, again, this is version 5 now of Partner Connect. The first version was 1997, and we were hosting it on a Unix box, and we were running it with St. Paul Software, which, oh, by the way, St. Paul Software became SPS Commerce. So we're very familiar with the guys at SPS. And there was a whole bunch of costs. You had van charges, you had all kinds of things associated with it. This screenshot is actually on our website. So let me just go real quick so that you can see and find it. Everything, we put all of our pricing out on our website. So if I go to Partner Connect and then I go to pricing, and if you click on place order, you're going to see an actual document out there that shows you all the pricing and the terms and conditions associated with it. This is a summary of it. 1, monthly charges are based upon trading partner connections. Remember, we talked about that. I showed you on the screen that we had the idea of what's like a functional acknowledgement in and a purchase order out, so a purchase order out for Cambridge, a purchase order out for 3M, a purchase order out for Moen. All of those things become one trading partner connection, and you get up to 15 of those, and you end up with paying $445 a month. That's no setup fees, no killer character fees, the bugs are fixed, and the only thing that's going to be billable are two things. Any data related issues, which they do happen in EDI, as you know, that's going to be billable. And extended testing. You get 2 hours of testing for that. That should cover all the testing. If everybody's got their acts together, we should be good to go. So what kills us, because we've been doing this so long, is we can't provide it for free for extended testing, because that's things that are outside of our control. Then as time goes on and you start growing your business, and we want you to grow your business up to 100 trading partner connections, then it goes to $945 a month. And if you want unlimited, we actually have customers on this, just so you know. We have customers, and that's the maximum amount that you're going to ever pay for this type of a level, which is the enterprise level. You'll still, again, have the data-related issues and potentially extended testing pieces, but that's $2,000 a month is what your total cost maximum would be. Just so you're aware of what Keystone's pricing is, start out at $180 per month. That gets you 10 gigabytes of data that's available for it. You would have the P21 module if you want to integrate with P21. And then as you get to your other trading partners, it's $30 per month for, say, Granger or for Amazon. It's monthly charges based upon disk space modules. That's the only place it grows. Other than that, you have unlimited number of users, and you're paying per module based upon each of those different types of trading partners or connectivities or marketplaces that you're dealing with for the static information. All right, so let's talk about some migration steps. First, get a listing of all your current documents. You're going to want that. These migration steps are independent of Grey Wolf Systems. These are all the migration steps that you're going to want to do, even if you do it yourself. You need a listing of all your current documents. You're going to need a listing of you don't necessarily need a document count of how many you're doing, but it might be a good idea so that you can go to the next step, which is prioritize them based upon difficulty, benefit, and urgency. And I use those three words intentionally because I believe you start with the low difficult ones. You start with the easier ones. There's no reason to start out right out of the chutes doing the hard ones. Go with the low hanging fruit. We all know that outbound is a lot easier than inbound. So start with the outbound documents. Start with an 850 out and deal with the trading partners that are the most tolerant of having problems and got their acts together. Because if they have their act together, it makes it a heck of a lot easier. Now, that also being said, you trade that off with a benefit. If we get the count of documents, you may be doing 10 times the amount of documents with one trading partner, but the other trading partner is more difficult to work with, but you're going to get a bigger bang for the buck by moving over there. So the benefit comes into play, and or the urgency. When it comes to EDI, there's a tail and there's a dog. Are you the tail or are you the dog? How urgent is it? If it's dealing with a customer, do you have to do it right away? You do have a certain sense of urgency for obvious reasons. You've got until 2026 for Partner Connect for TPCx to go away. So you do have a certain deadline associated with it, but prioritize each of those documents. Then get the contact information for each of those documents. Assign ownership to someone in your organization. Don't just let it run around and ping pong around and play pinball from person to person to person. If it's a vendor that you're dealing with, get that buyer that works with them on a regular basis. Get the person that's been working with TPCx on that. Make sure they have ownership of it, because otherwise it's going to sit out there and it's going to die on the vine. And that's the last thing you want to have it do. And then I am a huge fan of evolution, not revolution. Start small, work through it with persistence. Don't let it just sit out there. Start small. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have it where the trading partners don't respond to you. Those are all the things that are native to an EDI implementation. But what you're going to want to do is make sure you start small, but stay persistent. Keep at it. Keep working at it. So, in summary, you got an end of life for TPCx coming up in December of 2026. Partner Connect EDI is affordable transition for TPCx for transactional. and Keystone's great for static information. That's our story. But no matter if you come with us or not, I would highly recommend that you look at the migration steps and make sure you take some ownership yourself and just don't throw this over the wall at somebody else to go do it. We are going to have another webinar coming up on July 30th. Cheryl and I will be back together again before the conference. I think I've got the topic for you, Cheryl. It's going to be consistent sharing with marketplace. It's going to take this whole topic that we've been talking about and take it to the next step. How do you make this consistent sharing with guys like Amazon and Home Depot and Wayfair and eBay and all the different guys that are out there? We're going to take that to the next step on the next webinar, and that's going to be on July 30th of this year. We are going to be at the conference. As Cheryl was talking about, all the information out there, we have already signed up, and we are excited to be there for another year. We've been doing it for several years running, and so you'll get to see our smiling faces in Dallas when that happens. All right, Cheryl, I did go to about 10 till. I'm hoping there's some questions out there. I tried to slow it down even, but I always want to leave a few minutes for questions. But in the meantime, for those of you that are interested, here's my vital information if you want to take some of this stuff offline and contact me directly.
Well, thank you so much for that, and thank you for being much smoother than I was at the beginning. I couldn't stop. I had to put myself on mute. I couldn't even stop laughing after all of that. I can't, like, I trip over my words all the time, but today I couldn't keep anything straight. We don't have any questions just yet, and sometimes they're slow to come in, so we can always give them a minute. For those of you on the call, of course, the session is recorded and will be posted on the user group forum. We always aim to have it up the same day, but sometimes it can take us 24 hours to get those sessions posted. You can always post your questions on the forum, but you can also contact Rick directly. His contact information is there on the screen. If you don't get a chance to write this down, of course, I am more than happy to introduce the two of you at any time. But with that, and with no questions, Rick, maybe we can give everyone a few minutes back.
That works for me.
All right. Well, thank you so much as always. And I'm sure I'll talk to you before July anyway.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.